Chapter 1. The luxurious Wilson family villa is brightly lit. Tonight is the birthday banquet of the 70-year-old Mrs. Wilson, the owner of the Wilson family. Many grandchildren, granddaughters, and grandsons-in-law gave gifts. Grandma, I heard that you love tea. This century-old pure tea brick is worth 500,000. And as a birthday gift for you. Grandma, I heard that you believe in Buddha. This jade Buddha is carved from Hessian jade and is worth 700,000. Old Mrs. Wilson looked at the various gifts and laughed, making the whole family happy. At this moment, Mrs. Wilson's eldest grandson-in-law, Charlie, suddenly said, Grandma, can you lend me $1 million? Aunt Lena from the orphanage has uremia and needs money for treatment. The entire Wilson family was shocked. Everyone looked at Charlie with incredible eyes. This live-in son-in-law is too courageous, right? The Lady Wilson was over her birthday. Not only did he not prepare any gifts, he even dared to open his mouth and ask the Lady Wilson to borrow $1 million? 3 years ago, the surviving Mr. Wilson, don't know from where, found Charlie and insisted on marrying his eldest granddaughter Claire Wilson to him. At that time, Charlie was penniless, just like a beggar, same as now. After the two got married, the old master passed away. Since then, the Wilson family has been deliberately trying to drive him away. It's just that Charlie is indifferent and is not moved by other people's insults, so he has always been a live-in son-in-law in the Wilson family. It is also helpless to ask the Lady Wilson to borrow money today. Aunt Lena from the orphanage where he was taken in and saved had uremia, dialysis, and kidney transplantation required at least $1 million. He really had no choice but to speak to the Lady Wilson. He felt that today is the Lady Wilson's birthday and then she may be kind and willing to help when she is happy. Unexpectedly, the old Mrs. Wilson was still laughing for a second and she immediately pulled her face down the second. She threw the teacup in her hand to the ground and shouted angrily, "Start thing, you are here to celebrate my birthday or to borrow money?" Charlie's wife, Claire, hurried forward and explained to the Lady Wilson, "Grandma, Charlie is ignorant, don't be surprised." With that said, she was about to pull Charlie aside. At this time, Claire's cousin, Wendy, sneered and said, "Sister, look at what kind of rubbish your marriage is. Gerald and I were just engaged and not yet married, so Gerald gave Grandma a Hessian jade Buddha. It's good for your husband, he didn't bring any gifts and he still had the face to ask Grandma to borrow money." "That's right, brother Charlie, we are both grandsons-in-law of the Wilson family. You, as the eldest grandson-in-law, are really a failure." The man who spoke was Wendy's fiancé, Gerald, the young master of a large local family. Although Gerald was about to marry Wendy, in his mind, Wendy's appearance was 1,000 miles away from Charlie's wife Claire. Claire was a well-known goddess in Aura's Hill, but seeing the goddess marrying this worthless man and a waste of money, Gerald was also very upset. "This kind of garbage, it's best to get him out of our Wilson family as soon as possible." Yes, the Wilson family's face has completely lost this guy. I think it is fake that he borrowed money and his interest in deliberately sweeping the birthday feast of the Lady Wilson is true. Charlie couldn't help clenching his fists when he saw that the entire Wilson family was targeting and insulting him. Had it not been for the medical expenses of the savior, he would have turned around and left this place of fake extravaganza and pomp. However, thinking of his father's teachings to him since he was a child, letting his kindness of dripping water and retribution to the spring, he tried to suppress the humiliation in his heart and said to the old Mrs. Wilson, "Grandma, saving a life is better than building a 7th-level Buddha. Please be merciful." Someone snorted coldly and cursed. "Wade, you don't want to give Grandma ecstasy. Here, if you want to have someone, you can find a way by yourself and don't let your Grandma pay to help you save people." "What are you?" It was Wendy's brother Harold. The brothers and sisters have always had great opinions on Claire, who is superior to them in all aspects, so they like to seize the opportunity to mock Charlie the most. Claire on the side looked a little embarrassed and said, "Grandma, Charlie lost his father when he was 8 years old. Aunt Lena from the orphanage brought him up. He wanted to repay his gratitude because of a grateful heart. Please help him." Old Mrs. Wilson said with a dark face, "Let me help him? Okay, unless you divorce him. And then marry Mr. Jones. If you do, I will immediately give him $1 million. The Lady Wilson was talking about Wendell, who had been pursuing Claire. The Jones family was an upper-class family in Aura's Hill, much more powerful than the Wilson family, and the Lady Wilson always wanted to curry favor. At this time, the housekeeper ran in and said loudly, "Mr. Jones sent someone with a birthday gift. A carved jade amulet from Lacking is worth $3 million. Mrs. Wilson was overjoyed and blurted out, "Bring it quickly, let me see." The butler immediately handed over an emerald green jade amulet and everyone present let out a breath of surprise. This jade amulet is emerald green, crystal clear, without a trace of impurities, and looks like a first-class genuine product. Gerald, who had sent the Hessian jade Buddha, saw this jade amulet and his face was a little bit awkward. Unexpectedly, Wendell had nothing to do with the Wilson family and his shot was so generous. Old Mrs. Wilson happily played with jade amulets and said merrily, "Oh, Mr. Jones is really interested. Only if he could be my grandson-in-law, I would really wake up in my dreams." After that, she looked up at Claire. "How about my condition, would you like to consider it?" Claire shook her head. "Grandma, I will not divorce Charlie." Mrs. Wilson's expression instantly turned into a haze and she angrily cursed. "Don't give me your face. You must hang on this rubbish. Let this rubbish get out of my face. My birthday banquet, he is not allowed to participate." Charlie was completely disappointed and he had no face to stay in the Wilson family at this time, so he said to Claire, "Claire, I will go to the hospital to see Aunt Lena." Claire hurriedly said, "Then I will be with you." Old Mrs. Wilson cursed at this moment. "If you leave too, I won't have you as granddaughter in the future. You take your parents and your mother and get out of Wilson's house with this waste." Claire looked startled and she didn't expect the Lady Wilson to say such harsh words. Charlie said hurriedly, "You stay, don't worry about me." With that said, before Claire recovered, he turned around and walked out. Harold laughed behind him. Oh my good brother-in-law, you left hungry and won't go to the streets to beg for dinner? In that case, our Wilson family's face will not let you lose all of it. I still have it. For a coin, you can buy a steamed bun to eat. Harold said, took out a coin and threw it at Charlie's feet. The entire Wilson family burst into laughter. Charlie gritted his teeth and left the Wilson family without looking back. When he rushed to the hospital, Charlie immediately went to the payment office, wanting to communicate with the hospital and to inform them that the medical expenses would be delayed for another 2 days. However, when he asked the nurse, he was suddenly told that Aunt Lena had been sent to the best hospital in Eastcliff overnight. Charlie was shocked and hurriedly asked her, how much does it cost? I'll find a way. The other party said, a total of $3 million is needed. $1 million has been paid and there is still a gap of $2 million. It will be paid in a week. Who paid this $1 million? The other party shook her head. I don't know either. Charlie was surprised and was about to figure it out. When he turned his head, a man in a black suit with gray hair, about 50 years old, was standing behind him. With eyes facing each other, the man bowed to him and said, young master, you have suffered for so many years. Charlie frowned, as if his temperament had changed, and asked coldly, are you Stephen Thompson? The other party said in surprise, Mr. Wade, you still remember me? Charlie's expression froze, and he murmured, of course I remember. I remember every one of you. Back then, you forced my parents to take me out of Eastcliff and escape all the way. During this time, my parents died unexpectedly. I have also become an orphan. So why are you looking for me now? Stephen Thompson said very painfully, young master, when your father passed away, old Master Wade was also extremely sad. He has been looking for you for so many years. Now that it is all right, he wants you to come back to him with me. Charlie said coldly, you can go, I will never see him in my life. Stephen Thompson said, young master, do you still blame Master Wade? Of course. Charlie said word by word, I will never forgive him in my life. Hey, Stephen Thompson sighed and said, before I came, Master Wade said you might not forgive him. That means he has self-knowledge. Stephen Thompson said, old Mr. Wade knows that you have suffered over the years. He wants to compensate you a little. If you don't want to go back, he will buy the largest company in Orris Hill and give it to you. In addition, he has asked me to give you this card. The password is your birthday. With that, Stephen Thompson handed over a Citibank premium card. Mr. Wade, there are only 5 such cards in the country. Charlie shook his head and said, take it away, I don't want it. Stephen Thompson said, Mr. Wade, for your savior, you still have a shortfall of $2 million in medical expenses. If you fail to pay, her life may be in danger. Charlie frowned. You deliberately fix me? Stephen Thompson hurriedly said, I don't dare to. If you accept this card, it will be enough to pay the money. Charlie asked, how much money is in this card? Mr. said, this card is for you as a little pocket money, not much, a total of 10 billion. Chapter 2. 10 billion? Charlie was stunned. He knew that his grandfather's family was rich, but at that time he was young and had no idea about money. He only knew that the Wade family was one of the top families in Eastcliff and in the country. But he didn't know exactly how much money it had. But at this moment, he knew it. 10 billion is just pocket money, and when it is about the entire Wade family, he is afraid it will be more than 1 trillion. To be honest, at this moment, he was deeply moved in his heart. But thinking of the death of his parents, Grandpa couldn't shirk the blame, and he couldn't forgive him. Stephen Thompson saw his entanglement and hurriedly said, Master, you are the heir of Wade family. You deserve this money, and strictly speaking, it belongs to your father. Master said, if you are willing to go back, you will inherit the trillions of family properties. If you don't want to go back, this money will be given as your living expenses. Oh yes, Orris Hill's largest enterprise, the Embrin Group with a market value of 100 billion, was wholly owned by Yigia yesterday. Now all the shares are in your name, you can go to Embrin Group for the handover by tomorrow. Charlie was a little unbelievable. Wade family's investment is too big for him to handle, right? 10 billion premium cards, 100 billion Embrin Group. Although Orris Hill hides the dragon and crouching tiger, the only true god is the Embrin Group. Any family must bow to their knees in front of the Embrin Group. It is the emperor of Orris Hill's business field. Even the Wilson family and White family who humiliated him today, as well as the Jones family who pursue Claire, are all small in front of the Embrin Group. Unexpectedly, it turns out to be his own now. At this time, Stephen Thompson handed him a business card and said, Mr. Wade, you may need to calm down and think about it. I won't bother you anymore. This is my phone number. Please tell me if you have anything to do. After speaking, Stephen Thompson turned and left. After he left, Charlie was still in a daze. He didn't know whether he should accept Wade family's compensation. But, thinking about it carefully, the humiliation that he has experienced over the past 10 years and the humiliation he has been given in the Wilson family, these are the compensations given to him by the Wade family. Why doesn't he take it? Moreover, Aunt Lena's medical expenses still need $2 million, and it is urgent. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth and immediately turned back to the toll office. Hello, I want to deposit the $2 million. Swipe the card, enter the password, the transaction is successful. $2 million was easily credited to the hospital's account. Charlie felt like the whole person was in the mist. Has he become a billionaire? Going home in a muddled manner. The family had fallen out at this time. Claire and her parents did not live in Wilson's villa, but a very ordinary building. They have been driven out since Claire married him, and old Mr. Wilson died. His mother-in-law was yelling at home. Charlie, that rubbish. Let us lose face today. If you don't divorce him, your grandmother will drive you out of the Wilson group. Claire said, I'll find another job when I get out. You, said mother-in-law angrily. What's so good about that rubbish? Why can't you divorce him and then marry Wendell? If you marry Wendell, our family can be proud. The father-in-law also said to the side. Yes, marry Wendell, our family will become a treasure immediately in front of your grandma, and your grandma will rush to curry favor with you every day. Claire said. Don't say anything, I won't divorce Charlie. You kid. The two had to persuade Charlie to push him. When they saw him, his father-in-law and mother-in-law didn't look good. The mother-in-law snorted coldly. A rubbish and a face to bear it all. Charlie sighed inwardly. His mother-in-law has always looked down upon him, but if he were to let her know that he is now the boss of the Embrun Group and has 10 billion in cash, what would she be like? However, Charlie is not yet ready to let people know his identity. He has been away from the Wade family for many years, who knows what the Wade family is now? What if someone in the Wade family is unfavorable to him if he exposes himself? Therefore, it is better to keep a low profile first. So he lowered his head and said apologetically, Mom, I'm sorry, I caused you trouble. Today. The mother-in-law scolded. You are more than trouble, you are killing our family of 3. You can't be a little self-aware and get out of our house? Claire hurriedly said. Mom, how do you talk? Charlie is your son-in-law. Bullshit. Mother-in-law said bitterly. I don't have such a waste son-in-law. The farther you go, the better. Claire pushed Charlie. Hurry, go to the room. Charlie nodded gratefully and fled back to the room. He and Claire had been married for 3 years, but they had never been married for 3 years in the strict sense. Claire slept on the bed and he slept on the floor next to her. This night, Charlie couldn't sleep for a long time. What happened today is really shocking, he will not be able to digest it for a while. Before going to bed, Claire said to him, how is Aunt Lena? I still have more than 100,000 private money. You can take it to her tomorrow. Charlie said. No, someone has already paid Aunt Lena and sent her to Eastcliff for treatment. Really? Claire said in surprise, Aunt Lena is saved? Yes. Charlie said. Aunt Lena has done good and accumulated virtue throughout her life and helped so many people. Now someone has finally repaid her. That's good. Claire nodded and said to Charlie. You can breathe a sigh of relief. Yes. Claire said. I have to go to sleep. Recently, the company has a lot of things and I'm so tired. Charlie asked. What happened to the company? Claire said. The business is not very good. Grandma has always wanted to cooperate with a large company like the Embrun Group, but the strength of the Wilson family is still much weaker and people look down on it. Charlie suddenly thought of the Embrun Group and asked her. The Wilson family has no cooperation with the Embrun Group? Claire laughed at him and said. How can the Embrun Group look at the Wilson family? Even Wendy's fiancé and Gerald's family are barely able to catch up with the Embrun Group. Grandma counts on them after they get married. The White family can help the Wilson family connect with the Embrun Group. Charlie nodded. It turned out that the Wilson family had sharpened their heads and wanted to cooperate with the Embrun Group. However, Mrs. Wilson was afraid of dreaming and could not think of it. Embrun Group is now his own. Thinking of this, Charlie decided to take over the Embrun Group first and then give Claire a little help through the Embrun Group. She was too bullied in the Wilson family. As her husband, he had the responsibility to help her improve her status in the family. At first, your husband is different from today. I will never let anyone look down on you again. I will make the entire Wilson family bow to you. Chapter 3. Early the next morning. After Charlie finished cooking, he rode his little Ebic to the Embrun Group. He parked the little Ebic next to the parking lot of the Embrun Group. As soon as the bike was locked, a black Bentley car slowly parked in a parking space opposite. Charlie looked up inadvertently and saw a pair of young man and woman walking down the car. The man is dressed in high-end suits, they look very stylish, and the women are coquettish. Although a bit gaudy, they are also rare beauties. It turned out to be Claire's cousin Wendy and her about-to-be engaged fiancé, Gerald, the eldest of the White family. Charlie didn't know what Wendy and Gerald were doing in the Embrun Group, but in order to avoid trouble, he's still prepared to hide away. Unexpectedly, things are hiding more and more. The sharp-eyed Wendy immediately saw him and shouted loudly, "Oh, brother-in-law." Wendy's brother-in-law yelled extremely cordially, but Charlie couldn't help but he strode faster after hearing it. Out of courtesy, he could only stop, and when the two approached, he smiled and said, "Wendy, why are you here?" Wendy giggled. "I and Gerald came over to meet with Doris, the vice chairman of Embrun Group." After that, she looked at Gerald with admiration and said, "Gerald's family has a lot of cooperation with the Embrun Group. In the future, not only will it help the White family, but also our Wilson family." Charlie didn't know that the White family had a cooperation with the Embrun Group. After all, the Embrun Group had just become his industry and had not had time to understand it. But he didn't show it, just smiled and said, "The prince has an extraordinary temperament and a good strength. You are really talented and beautiful." Gerald White looked at Charlie contemptuously and couldn't help feeling injustice in his heart. This stinky rug was scolded by Mrs. Wilson yesterday as a dog, and today he has a hippie smile like a okay person. Why would a stunning beauty like Claire marry such a useless waste? If it weren't for this useless man, he would definitely pursue Claire desperately, and how could he be engaged to this inferior Wendy in every respect? Thinking of this, Gerald was upset and deliberately asked, "What did brother-in-law come to the Embrun Group for?" Charlie said casually, "I'm looking for a job." "Looking for a job?" He sneered and said, "Why do you want to find a job in the Embrun Group?" Charlie frowned. "What does my job search have to do with you?" Wendy called Charlie to stop, just trying to sarcastically sarcasm him. Seeing that Gerald had started first, she immediately sneered. "Why, is Gerald wrong? For academic qualifications, do you have a diploma? If you want a job, do you have any achievements apart from your uselessness? If you come to the Embrun Group to apply for a security guard, they will not want a waste like you. If you are a little self-knowing, you might as well go picking up rubbish on the street. You can earn 2 or 3,000 at least a month." After speaking, she threw the drink bottle in her hand at Charlie's feet and hummed, "Hey, don't say I don't take care about you, pick up this empty bottle and sell it for money." Gerald smiled and said, "Although you are rubbish, since you are a relative, then I have to take care of you as much as possible. It just so happens that I have some friendship with the vice chairman of the Embrun Group. Why don't I help you with 2 good things and let her arrange it for you?" A job cleaning the toilet? Charlie smiled coldly and said. The kind of job I am looking for, you don't need to worry about it. You should worry about yourself. Embren Group is a large enterprise. I believe they will not cooperate with you with such low-quality garbage. Gerald suddenly got furious. Who do you say is rubbish? Charlie said disdainfully. You are rubbish. After speaking, he was too lazy to talk to Gerald and walked into the Embren Group building. Drafting it, stop for me. Gerald quickly followed and caught up with Charlie at the elevator in trance. He wanted to teach Charlie a good lesson, but at least slapped him twice to let him know the fate of people offending him. But when he saw that he was already inside the Embren Group building, he was worried that doing something here would anger his partners, so he had to temporarily dismiss the idea of teaching him. He gritted his teeth and said, I will let you go for a while today, and you won't have such good luck next time. Charlie snorted coldly, stepped into the elevator, and said to him, Gerald, do you think you are a powerful? Believe me, you will soon know the cost of arrogance. FCKU. Gerald stepped into the elevator. Wendy gave him a hand and said in a contemptuous tone, Gerald, don't take the same elevator with this kind of rubbish, lest you get smoked by the stench on his body. Gerald nodded, knowing that he couldn't do something with him here, so he said coldly, letting you go, I want you to look good next time. Charlie took the elevator directly to the top floor where the chairman's office was. On the side of the Embren Group, Stephen Thompson had already arranged it for him. And the person in charge of docking with him was a woman named Doris Young. Doris is well known in Oris Hill, and she's the most famous career-oriented woman in Oris Hill. Not only is she beautiful, but she is also very capable of working. She has been promoted to the vice chairman of Embren Group at a young age. She has contributed to Embren Group's existence today. Now that the Embren Group has been acquired by the Wade family, the original chairman has abdicated, and Doris stayed and prepared to assist the new chairman. When she saw Charlie, Doris was shocked. She didn't expect that Charlie would be so young and handsome. After that, she did not dare to delay and immediately said respectfully, Mr. Wade, please come to my office. Chapter 4. Charlie also saw Doris for the first time. I have to say that Doris looks really beautiful. At the age of 27 or 18, she has a slender and plump figure, an alluring beauty and a noble and capable temperament. Charlie sat down at Doris's desk and said, I won't come to the Embren Group often in the future, so the Embren Group wants you to preside over the overall situation and don't reveal my identity. Doris knew that the Charlie family in front of her was extraordinary, and an Embren Group was nothing short of drizzle to his family, and it was normal to not want to manage it himself. So she hurriedly said, Mr. Wade, if you have anything in the future, you can just tell me. At this time, a female secretary knocked on the door and came in and said, Miss Doris, there is a man named Gerald who has brought his fiancée to visit you. Doris immediately said, I'm seeing the distinguished guests, let them wait first. Charlie asked her, do you know this Gerald? Doris hurriedly said, his family is a partner under us and their main business is dependent on us. Their family has always said that they will come to visit and they have been here several times. Charlie said coldly, from now on, the Embren Group will no longer have any business dealings with the White family. All ongoing and preparatory cooperation will be suspended. If the White family can still earn a cent from the Embren Group, you, deputy chairman, will have to pack your things. When Doris heard this, her expression suddenly frightened. She didn't need to ask to know that someone from the White family must have offended the young master. So she nodded immediately and said, Mr. Wade, don't worry, I will order now to terminate all cooperation with the White family. Charlie snorted and said, tell them that Embren Group will not cooperate with low-quality garbage and then let the security guards drive them out. Outside, Gerald and Wendy were waiting excitedly. The White family has always wanted to become a strategic partner of the Embren Group, so they especially hope to get closer to Doris. But unexpectedly, Doris's secretary came with several security guards. Gerald couldn't help asking her, hello, will Miss Doris have time to see us? The secretary looked at him and said coldly, I'm sorry, our deputy. Doris said, Embren Group will not cooperate with people of low quality like you. From now on, we are canceling all cooperation with your family. What did you say? Gerald was stunned for a moment and was astonished. Why is this sentence so familiar? Oh, right. When he was in the parking lot just now, Charlie also said exactly the same thing. What does Miss Doris mean? Why should they stop cooperating with the White family? Gerald felt his brain congested. What happened? Terminate all cooperation? More than half of White's profits are made by the Embren Group. If the cooperation is terminated, wouldn't the family strength be cut by half? Immediately? He could not accept this reality and shouted, I want to see Miss Doris. I want to ask Miss Doris face to face. The secretary said coldly, I'm sorry, our deputy Doris won't see you, and you won't be allowed to step into the Embren Group in the future. Gerald scolded angrily. Did you deliberately play with me? We are a long-term partner of the Embren Group. How can we terminate cooperation like this? The secretary ignored him and said directly to the security guards around him, take them out. The security captain rushed forward, grabbed Gerald's wrist, and then twisted it behind him. Gerald yelled in pain, and the guard yelled coldly, get out, if you dare to make trouble in the Embren Group, be careful that I dispose of you. You are a security captain, dare to yell at me, do you know who I am? As soon as Gerald's voice fell, Captain slapped him and cursed in front of the Embren Group, what are you? Gerald was slapped with a fierce pain on his face. When he was about to get angry, the phone rang suddenly. The call turned out to be from his father. When the phone was connected, an angry roar came from the other side. Gerald, what did you do? Now that Embren Group wants to cancel all cooperation with us, who did you offend? Gerald said aggrievedly. Dad, I have not offended anyone. I just came to visit Miss Doris, but I haven't even seen Miss Doris's face. On the other end of the phone, Gerald's father yelled, the people of the Embren Group said that the reason they discontinued their cooperation with the White family is All because you are an unqualified rubbish. Now the family has suffered heavy losses. Because of you, so you hurry back to me and personally explain to your grandpa. Gerald was driven out of the gate of Embrin Group by security all the way, holding the phone with a surprised expression. He suddenly thought of Charlie and couldn't help asking Wendy. Wendy, is it because of your rubbish brother-in-law? Has he have anything to do with the Embrin Group? Huh? Wendy was taken aback by Gerald's words, thinking about it carefully, it might indeed be related to her rubbish brother-in-law. However, he is obviously a waste. Thinking of this, she shook her head flatly and said, how could he have something to do with the Embrin Group? He is not qualified to come to the Embrin Group to clean the toilet. That's right. Gerald nodded, thinking of his furious father. He said sullenly, no, I have to go home quickly. The news that the White family was terminated by the Embrin Group immediately spread throughout Orris Hill. Although it is not known why the Embrin Group wants to block the White family, everyone knows that the White family must have offended the Embrin Group. At this time, the White family was over. The White family's strength has plummeted by more than half. It was already close to the standard of the first-tier family, but now it has fallen directly into the tail of the second-tier family. When the old Mrs. Wilson heard the news, she was shaking with anger. She wanted to annul the marriage contract between Wendy and Gerald, but thought that the White family was thinner and camel was bigger than the horse, and the Wilson family could not afford to offend, so she could only give this thought up temporarily. At this time, in Doris's office, Charlie learned the whole process just now and admired her style very much. Charlie said with satisfaction, Doris, what you did just now is very good. Starting today, your salary will be double. Doris was surprised and delighted and hurriedly stood up and bowed to Charlie. Thank you, Mr. Wade. Charlie nodded and said, also, I want you to announce two things. Mr. Wade, say it, and it will be done. The first thing is to announce the change of ownership of Embrin Group and the appointment of the new chairman, but do not reveal the identity of the new chairman. Only the last name is Wade, that is what people need to know. The second thing is to announce that Embrin Group will invest $2 billion in Orris Hill to build a 6-star hotel. At the same time, it will launch a partner bidding, construction, and decoration companies in the city can participate in the bidding. The main business of the Wilson Group is decoration. The Lady Wilson dreams of going to the big ship of Embrin Group. Whoever can win the cooperation of the Embrin Group will definitely become the red man of the Wilson Group. Now the Embrin Group is his own, and of course he has to give his wife some benefits. Chapter 5. The two news released by the Embrin Group completely detonated the entire Orris Hill. Hearing that the Embrin Group has changed hands, the Wilson family wanted to understand why the White family was kicked out by the Embrin Group. It seems that the new owner of the Embrin Group still looks down on families likes of the White family. But who is Mr. Wade? Is this person too good? The Embrin Group, which has hundreds of billions, buys, and the richest man in Orris Hill is not as big as his. For a time, countless families were ready to move. On the one hand, they were eager to have a relationship with this mysterious Mr. Wade, and on the other hand, they also longed for their daughter to marry Mr. Wade. In addition, the Embrin Group wants to invest in a hotel project of $2 billion, which also makes the entire Orris Hill construction and decoration industry tremble. $2 billion. Just get a little leftover material, and you can make a lot of money. Countless companies want to get a share of it. This naturally also includes the old Mrs. Wilson, who is addicted to money. Mrs. Wilson was very excited at this time. This is a great opportunity for a $2 billion project. If the Wilson family can get a contract from it, it will really be ascended to heaven. So she immediately ordered a family meeting to be held at home tonight to discuss how to make a breakthrough in the new project of the Embrin Group. Everyone must attend. That night, Wilson's villa. Because the Lady Wilson asked everyone to be there, Charlie followed. He knew that the Lady Wilson was going to a meeting to discuss how to get a share of the Embrin Group's big project. Therefore, he wanted to take this opportunity to help his wife Claire grow her face. When he arrived at the Wilson family villa, Claire's cousin Harold immediately sneered. When he saw him, FCK, Charlie, you have such a thick skin, and you have the face to see Grandma again. Claire said with a cold face. Don't talk nonsense. Grandma asked everyone in the Wilson family to come. Charlie is my husband, and naturally also from the Wilson family. Harold laughed and said, he is though considered a half Wilson family, but just a living son-in-law. Charlie touched his nose and said to Claire, forget about him, my wife, don't be familiar with him, going quickly, save Grandma waiting. Claire nodded and owed Harold a good face and walked in with Charlie. Seeing this, Harold's expression also became cold, waiting for them to look good. After entering the conference hall, Charlie and Claire found a place in the corner to sit down. Soon, Mrs. Wilson stepped forward and the family meeting officially began. The old Mrs. Wilson sat in the main seat, knocked on the table, and said vigorously, the Wilson family has been waiting for an opportunity in the past few years, an opportunity that can make us one of the richest in Orris Hill. Now, this opportunity has finally come. Mrs. Wilson said loudly. This time the Embrin Group has thrown out a $2 billion project. Whoever can get a cooperation contract from it will definitely benefit a lot. Moreover, this is the first major project of the Embrin Group after the change of ownership. For the Wilson family, it is a great opportunity. If we can cooperate with the Embrin Group and leave a good impression on the new owner of the Embrin Group, then the future of the Wilson family will be limitless. Although the Lady Wilson was very energetic, the people below seemed a little unmoved. In fact, it is not a day or two for the Wilson family to cooperate with the Embrin Group. For such a long time, the Embrin Group has ignored the Wilson family. The Lady Wilson now wants to take a share of the new project of the Embrin Group. How can it be possible? Seeing that all the people present were silent, Mrs. Wilson immediately questioned in annoyance. What? Are all dumb? Don't you have the confidence to take a little leftover from the $2 billion project? Everyone looks at her and each other, but they dare not talk to each other. The Lady Wilson was even more angry and gritted her teeth and said, I will put the Word here today, who can talk about the 30 million cooperation share from Embrand Group, who is the director of the group. As soon as this remark came out, everyone sitting was taken aback. The Lady Wilson has always been arbitrary, so she has never appointed a director in the group. After all, the director has a lot of power, and it is almost a successor of the future group that is qualified to hold this position. The Lady Wilson is now using this position as a reward. She definitely hopes that there will be a brave competition for the reward. It can be seen that she is extremely eager for the Embrand Group project. However, although the position of the director is good, it is not so easy to take. In the eyes of the Wilson family, if you want to reach a cooperation with Embrand, you have to get a contract of 30 million? Don't be kidding, even if Mrs. Wilson goes out in person, the executives of the Embrand Group will not see her, let alone talk about cooperation. There was silence in the family meeting hall. Seeing this, the old Mrs. Wilson asked angrily, "You are descendants of the Wilson family, don't you want to share the worries for the Wilson family?" After that, the old Mrs. Wilson looked directly at Harold. "Harold, leave this to you." Harold laughed a few times and quickly said, "Grandma, even Gerald's house has been cleared by the Embrand Group now. Our strength is worse than the Whites. How can we get the Embrand Group contract?" Mrs. Wilson suddenly cursed. "Rubbish. Deny yourself if you haven't tried it. You are more rubbish than Charlie." In fact, Mrs. Wilson didn't know her heart, but she didn't want to be the helm of a second and third-rate clan forever. She dreamed and longed for the Wilson family to rise to the next level. And this Embrand Group project is the only opportunity. Therefore, no matter how difficult it is, she would not give up. She thought that Harold, as the eldest grandson, would be able to take over the task happily, but she did not expect that he would withdraw at this time. Harold was also very depressed. Who would take on such an impossible task? He was afraid that he will be kicked out before entering the gate of the Embrand Group. At that time, not only did things fail, but they were also ridiculed and laughed at by others, so he decided not to agree in any way. After cursing Harold, the old Mrs. Wilson shouted and asked, "Where are the others? Don't you dare to take this task?" Charlie lightly touched Claire with his elbow at this time and whispered, "Wife, you take this task." Claire hurriedly said, "It's crazy. It's impossible for the Embrand Group to cooperate with a small company like the Wilson family." Charlie smiled slightly and said confidently, "Don't worry, you can definitely talk about this cooperation." Claire asked in surprise, "Really?" Charlie said confidently, "Of course. I don't think you have a problem at all. Seize this opportunity, and your future status in the Wilson family will hanging rocket." Claire didn't know why. At this moment, she believed Charlie's words in a bewildered manner. She stood up subconsciously and said to the old Mrs. Wilson, "Grandma, I'm willing to try." Chapter 6. Claire's statement made the entire Wilson family stunned. Everyone felt that Claire must be crazy. Don't divide the time to show off. At this moment of being in the limelight, what can be the result besides death? The Embrand Group is the largest company in Orris Hill. How can people look at the Wilson family? Whoever talks about it will never succeed. Harold couldn't help but sarcastically said, "Claire, do you think you can get the contract from the Embrand Group?" Harold's own sister and Claire's cousin, Wendy, also sneered at this moment. "Sister Claire, what is your identity and what is the identity of the Embrand Group? You go to talk so rashly, don't shame our Wilson family." Someone agreed. "That is, if she's driven out by the Embrand Group by then, our Wilson family will definitely become a laughingstock in Orris Hill." When Claire heard the sound, her cheeks were extremely red, feeling very embarrassed. Since marrying Charlie, her status in the family has plummeted, becoming less and less important and almost squeezed out, and even her parents have been ridiculed. She felt that if she could talk about this project with the Embrand Group, her position in the family would definitely be consolidated. The most important thing is that parents can also stand upright. But at this moment, being ridiculed by so many people, she couldn't help but retreat. She gave Charlie a depressed look. Why did she listen to his bewitching words? Won't get up for this if she knew it. Old Mrs. Wilson was very angry when she heard what everyone said. After asking this question several times, no one dared to take this task. Now Claire took the initiative to stand up, and the group of people began to pour cold water again. Although the old Mrs. Wilson had always disliked Claire, at this time, she felt that Claire was at least willing to share her worries, unlike other people who only knew to hide in their shells at this moment. Especially Harold, her beloved grandson, really disappointed her too much. Because of this, Mrs. Wilson's attitude towards Claire also changed a lot. So she immediately said, "Since others dare not agree, don't talk nonsense. This time we cooperate with Embrand Group on the project, let Claire talk about it." Claire could only bite the bullet and replied, "Don't worry, Grandma, I will definitely go all out." At this time, Harold sneered coldly from his nose and said, "What's the use of going all out? It's not a shame for the family to fail in the end." Charlie asked with a sneer, "Harold, what is your purpose in singing badly? Don't you think the Wilson family is qualified to cooperate with Embrand Group?" Harold didn't expect that Charlie would dare to speak at the family meeting, and he would wear a high hat on himself. Seeing that Mrs. Wilson's expression was also a little sulky, he immediately explained, "I don't mean that, I just think it is impossible for Claire to discuss this cooperation." Charlie smiled and asked him, "Then what if she can talk about cooperation at first? Shall we make a bet?" Harold sneered, "Come on, just gamble, I will be afraid of you. Tell me, what are you betting on?" Charlie said, "If you start to negotiate a contract, you kneel down and knock me 3 heads in front of the whole family and say you are wrong. If you can't negotiate at first, I will knock 3 heads for you and say aloud that I was wrong. What do you think?" "Ha ha ha ha." Harold immediately laughed wildly. "You rubbish are really looking for death. Okay, I'll bet with you." Charlie nodded in satisfaction and said, "The whole family is here to witness that if anyone goes back, it will be equivalent to wishing death for father, mother, grandpa, grandma." Charlie deliberately said the 3 words dead grandma very seriously because he was Afraid that Harold would back out it when he loses. As soon as these words came out, Harold never dared to go back because in that way, wouldn't it be cursing his grandma that is old Mrs. Wilson to die? When the time comes, Mrs. Wilson will not let him go. Okay. Harold didn't know that Charlie had dug a hole for him but instead felt that it was impossible for him to lose. So, he laughed and said, "The whole family witnesses, I am waiting for you to kowtow to me." Claire was startled and kept winking at him, but she didn't expect him to completely ignore it. Old Mrs. Wilson didn't care about this kind of gambling. Her only concern was whether she could enter the Embrun Group's cooperation list this time. If she could, don't say. Let Harold kneel to Charlie. Even if Harold called Charlie his father, she didn't care either. So she said, "Today's meeting ends here. Claire, you have 3 days to win the contract." And the meeting ends. Back home, the father-in-law and mother-in-law immediately attacked Charlie and Claire. The mother-in-law Elaine Ma was anxiously worried and blurted out, "Claire, you are crazy. How can you listen to Charlie's rubbish words, so confused and promise this job?" Father-in-law Jacob Wilson also scolded Charlie and said, Charlie, you're rubbish. You have killed my girl." Then, his father-in-law said angrily, "If you can't talk about the Embrun Group's cooperation in the first place, you will definitely be squeezed out by the family. This rubbish, will also kneel and kowtow to Harold in front of the whole family. Don't let you lose it." Charlie said seriously, "Dad and Mom, as long as the contract can be negotiated at first, everything will be solved. Talk all bullshit." The father-in-law scolded, "Do you know how strong the Embrun Group is? How can they look at the Wilson family?" Charlie smiled and said, "Maybe people can't see it? I think it must be fine at first and she can definitely get the contract down." The mother-in-law sneered at the side, "Do you think you are the boss of the Embrun Group? A rubbish, do you use any brain of yours? You are still talking here." Chapter 7. Seeing that her parents had been targeting Charlie, Claire sighed and said, "Dad and Mom, this matter has nothing to do with Charlie. I don't want him to look down on us anymore. Isn't the grievances we have suffered enough over the years?" Claire's mother blurted out, "Then you can't agree to this errand, don't talk about you. Even if your grandma is gone, people won't talk to her at Embrun." Charlie looked at the scene in front of him with a wry smile, his snobbish father-in-law and mother-in-law, even if he kills, they couldn't believe it. He is the boss of the Embrun Group, right? At this moment, there was a knock at the door. "I'm coming." The mother-in-law Elaine Ma sighed and opened the door. Charlie looked around and saw a young man in an Armani suit standing at the door. It could be said that he was a handsome and talented person with a Patek Philippe watch, which seemed to be worth at least 3 to 5 million. The mother-in-law said excitedly, "Oh, it's Wendell. Why are you here?" "This person is Wendell Jones, the son of Jones' family who has been pursuing Claire." Wendell smiled and said, "Auntie, I heard that Claire has taken over the cooperation of Embrun Group, so I came here to give her an idea." "Oh, you are really the savior of our family." Elaine was very excited. The look in Wendell's eyes was like looking at her son-in-law. She hurriedly welcomed him in and said, "Wendell, do you have a way to help Claire win the Embrun Group contract?" Wendell nodded with a smile, turning a blind eye to Charlie who was standing by, as if looking at the ants on the side of the road. He went straight to Claire and smiled slightly. "Claire, you don't even tell me about such a big thing. But you can rest assured that Embrun Group and my company have a cooperation. I will ask my dad to say hello. And I will do my best to help you." In fact, Wendell's father didn't have that much energy at all. He said this just to pretend to be in something in front of Claire. Claire always knew that Wendell was interesting in her, so she said coldly, "Wendell, I understand your kindness and I will find a way." Elaine exclaimed in disbelief. "Claire, are you crazy? Mr. Jones kindly came over to help. How can you talk like that?" Claire didn't speak, but Charlie on the side asked Wendell with interest, "Mr. Jones, I'm very curious about what you can do to help Claire. The Embrun Group is so big, it can't be controlled by you, right? Embrun signed a contract with Claire?" Wendell sneered contemptuously and said, "What do you know? Our Jones family and Embrun Group have always been in-depth partners. This time from the Embrun Group's $2 billion project, our family can get at least 1/3 of it. I will let you my dad directly allocated tens of millions from this third to subcontract to Claire. Wouldn't this help her complete the task?" Charlie said in surprise, "Oh, I didn't expect that Mr. Jones' family has such a deep relationship with the Embrun Group." Wendell snorted coldly and said, "Of course. And Horace Hill, who doesn't know that our Jones family works closely with Embrun Group?" After finishing speaking, Wendell stared at Charlie and said contemptuously, "Charlie, I advise you to leave Claire as a frog at the bottom of the well. A man like you can't give her happiness and will only hinder her path to progress." Claire said coldly at this time, "I'm sorry Mr. Jones, I don't need your help, and please don't speak harshly to my husband." Wendell said dumbfounded, "Claire, if I help you like this, you still have to face this rubbish? What is he worthy of your maintenance?" Claire said seriously, "He is not a waste, he is my husband." Wendell was full of gloom and anger and said angrily, "Okay, toast and not eat fine. Wine. I want to see what you can do to solve this trouble. If you can't figure it out then don't blame me for not giving you a chance." After speaking, Wendell turned around and slammed the door away. Elaine wanted to catch up to explain, but Wendell had already gone far. She slapped her thighs with anger and pointed to Charlie's nose and cursed, "You are so mad at me. What else can you do except for your rubbish will drag your legs? Mr. Jones is so kind to help, but you are all get angry and go." Charlie said indifferently, "Mom, he just talked about it. He couldn't get the cooperation of Embrun Group himself, so how could he be able to help Claire?" "You bullshit." Elaine said angrily. "The Jones family can get 1/3 of the Embrun Group's projects, you know what bullshit." Charlie sneered in his heart. "I don't know what Jones family can do. I only know that my Embrun Group will never have any cooperation with Jones family, even if the Embrun Group and Jones did have a lot of cooperation in the past. From now on, this cooperations will all stop. Claire didn't know what Charlie was thinking and said to her mother, "Mom, don't blame Charlie. Let's talk about it when I come back from Embrin Group." Hey. Elaine sighed long, only feeling that God was unfair. She married a rubbish husband, but the daughter married a more rubbish man. What an injustice this is. Chapter 8. Early the next morning, Claire brought the cooperation plan she had prepared overnight and came to the Embrin Group with Charlie. Looking at the 100-story Embrin Group building, Claire had no idea at all. How could a company as large as the Embrin Group look at the Wilson family? Not to mention that the Wilson family wanted to negotiate a share of 30 million. This is like a beggar who wants to go to a rich man's house to ask for a reward of 30 million, which is completely idiotic. However, since she promised my grandma and accepted the task in public, then she have to try something. Seeing that she was very nervous, Charlie tidied her hair a little distressedly. "Don't worry, my wife, you can talk, you will succeed," Claire said helplessly. "Hope, you are waiting for me here." After speaking, Claire took a deep breath and summoned her courage to walk into the door of the Embrin Group. Charlie watched behind her, took out her cell phone and called Doris. "Doris, my wife has already gone up, you should know how to do the rest." Doris said immediately. "Mr. Wade, don't worry, I will definitely satisfy Mrs. Wade." Charlie asked again. "By the way, I heard that Embrin Group has a deep cooperation with Jones family?" Doris said. "The cooperation between them and Embrin was really deep in the past. They also want to cooperate deeply in our new project this time and are submitting the cooperation application materials to me, but now it depends on what you mean, Mr. Wade." Charlie said coldly. "I don't want to see the Jones family participate in this new project. And I won't have any cooperation with them in the future." Doris hurriedly said. "Don't worry, I will do it." On the other side, Claire walked into the office building of the Embrin Group and waited for an appointment at the front desk. She didn't even know whether Doris, the vice chairman of the Embrin Group, would like to see her. After a while, a female assistant came over with a graceful posture. "You are Ms. Claire, right? Miss Doris is waiting for you in the office, please follow me." Claire nodded. She was still waiting in line to make an appointment, so why she was called in directly? Could it be that Doris knew she was coming? But it doesn't make sense, how can a famous person like Doris know her? Although she couldn't figure it out, Claire also knew that the opportunity was rare and hurriedly followed the other party. The female assistant took Claire directly into Doris's office. Seeing Claire, Doris quickly got up from the chair and greeted her respectfully. "Hello. Ms. Wilson, I am Doris, vice chairman of the Embrin Group." Facing the famous Oris Hill superwoman, Claire felt a little nervous and said, respectfully, "Hello Mr. Doris, I am here this time to talk to you about the hotel project. Although the overall strength of our Wilson family is not good strong, but we are really working hard in the decoration business and we have a good reputation." As she said, she nervously handed over a piece of information, saying, "Doris, this is the relevant introduction and qualification documents of our Wilson Group. Please also check it out." Doris smiled, and after receiving the document, she glanced briefly and said directly, "Ms. Wilson, I read your information. I think the Wilson family and Embrin can cooperate." "What? What you said is true." Claire couldn't believe it. "Agreed so soon? How could it be so simple?" Doris smiled and said, "Of course it is true. Although the Wilson family's own conditions do not meet the cooperation standards of the Embrin Group, our chairman is very optimistic about Ms. Wilson and is willing to cooperate with you." "Chairman?" Claire exclaimed and asked, "Who is your chairman?" Doris smiled indifferently and said, "Our chairman is someone called Wade from the Wade family of Eastcliff." "Wade?" Claire frowned and said, "I don't seem to know anyone named Wade, except for my husband." Doris nodded lightly. Charlie had told her not to reveal his identity information, so she could only reveal so much. Apart from Charlie, Claire did not know anyone with the Wade, but she had never thought that her orphaned husband, who was of no use, was the son of Wades. At this time, Doris said again, "Ms. Wilson, let me see if the share of intention to cooperate in your information is 30 million? Claire nodded in a hurry and asked without a bottom, "Is it too much?" Doris smiled and said, not much, but less." Claire became even more confused and hurriedly asked, "What do you mean?" Doris smiled and said, "Our chairman explained that he asked me to increase the cooperation share to 60 million. While talking, Doris took out a contract and handed it to Claire. "Look, the contract has been drawn up in advance and the total is 60 million. If you think it's okay, we can sign it now." "Huh? This?" Claire was really dumbfounded. She didn't expect that the Embrin Group, which was unable to reach the Wilson family, would take the initiative to prepare a contract for her. Moreover, the contract amount has doubled. Grandma's goal is 30 million and the contract actually says 60 million. She suddenly thought that during the meeting last night, her husband Charlie resolutely let her take this task. Why was he so confident? And when he was at the door of the Embrin Group just now, she had no confidence at the time, but he seemed confident. Did he already know the result? Who is he? Chapter 9. At this moment, Claire suddenly had an unbelievable thought in her heart. Is the Wade in Doris's mouth just her husband Charlie? But after another thought, she felt it was too magical to be true. How could it be? Charlie is an orphan who grew up in a welfare institution. However, besides Charlie, who else in this world would treat her so well? 30 million is an extravagant hope, but the other party directly gave 60 million. She couldn't help but ask Doris, "Ms. Doris, may I ask, is your chairman's name Charlie?" Doris sighed in her heart. The young master had ordered not to reveal his identity and could only say that his surname was Wade to the outside world. If this was guessed by the young lady, wouldn't she have to go back? So she hurriedly said, "Ms. Wilson, don't ask any more. Our chairman is behind Eastcliff's famous door. His identity is highly confidential and I have no right to disclose it." Claire nodded lightly, and after Doris said the famous Eastcliff family, she suddenly recovered. Charlie is an orphan, it can't be some Eastcliff famous door, it seems that she really thinks too much. When she came out of Doris's office, Claire was still dizzy. What she held in her hand was the $60 million cooperation agreement between the Wilson family and the Embren Group. All this is just like a dream. At the gate of the Embren Group, Claire saw Charlie's figure and ran up excitedly and said, "Charlie, I actually made it." Charlie smiled secretly in his heart. "Your husband is the boss of the Embren Group, how? Could you fail to talk about it?" However, he pretended to be surprised and said, "You can negotiate such a difficult project. Wife, you are really amazing." Claire said, "Oh, this is not my great one, this is simply a gift from the Embren Group." "What?" Charlie asked deliberately. "Why do you say that?" Claire was afraid that she would say something about the chairman of the Embren Group and Charlie would be jealous, so she hurriedly said, "Oh, this is a long story. Let's go to the company now and tell everyone the good news." Charlie laughed and said, "Okay. This time, that bastard Harold has to abide by the betting contract and kneel and kowtow to me." Claire nodded and said, "He usually has a high-level eye and no one is in the eye, so he should be taught a lesson." In fact, Claire also has her own temper. She wants that the people like Harold don't look down on her and her husband in every possible way. Now that they have negotiated a cooperation, they really want to restrain them in the future. More than 10 minutes later, the two came to the Wilson Group. In the meeting room, everyone in the Wilson family looked strange. They all know that Claire went to the Embren Group early in the morning, but everyone didn't believe that she could handle it and they were all waiting to see her become a joke. Unexpectedly, she would come back so soon. When Claire and Charlie arrived in the meeting room, everyone showed sarcasm. Harold said unceremoniously, "Oh, Claire, you are back in just half an hour? Did you even fail to enter the door of the Embren Group?" Ha ha ha. His sister Wendy also sneered. "Oh, Sister Claire, she failed in less than an hour. You also broke the record, right?" Old Mrs. Wilson's expression also turned gloomy. The Embren Group project is indeed extremely difficult. Even if Claire fails to reach a conclusion, she should at least be cautious, right? It really made her angry to give up so quickly. So, the old Mrs. Wilson stared at her and said coldly, "Claire, you disappointed me too much." Charlie frowned immediately when she heard this. "This group is too disgusting, right? Don't ask about the outcome of the matter, let's make a mockery first, regardless of whether it is indiscriminate or not. Especially Harold, the tortoise bastard, what the HLL are you doing? He will kowtow later." Claire was originally excited, but at this moment, everyone's words were undoubtedly pouring cold water. With anger in her heart, she said, "I'm sorry, I disappointed you all. The Embren Group's Doris has already negotiated with me for the project cooperation." "What? You talked about it? Impossible. How is it possible? You can't even see Doris's face." Everyone was stunned. "Claire, do you think we will believe it?" Harold came back to his senses and immediately slapped the table and said angrily, "Doris of the Embren Group is a well-known business elite in the city. How could she meet you? What identity do you have?" Facing everyone's doubts and accusations, Claire directly took out the contract and handed it to Mrs. Wilson. "This is the project contract of the Embren Group. Please, have a look. This contract is like a bomb, causing the atmosphere of these people on the scene to burst suddenly." Harold still didn't believe it and shouted loudly, "This must be her forged contract. I don't believe that she can handle the Embren Group." "That's it." Wendy also added fuel and jealousy to the side. "How can she win the Embren Group's contract? This is a big project of 30 million. If she is be able to it, I will have negotiated it." Claire sneered and said, "Cousin, you are wrong. This contract is not 30 million, but 60 million. Get off." Wendy grinned and said, "A contract of 60 million? Are you not embarrassed to say it? Are we really fools? You can sign 60 million, and I say I can sign 100 million. Harold also said with a cold face, "Claire, you are playing grandma and us as monkeys." After he finished speaking, he said to Mrs. Wilson, "Grandma, at first this is a big treachery. You can't spare her." The old Mrs. Wilson also gritted her teeth angrily. She felt that 90% of the 30 million was worthless. After half an hour, Claire ran back and told her that she signed 60 million. Isn't this treating her as a fool in front of so many people? Really be the head of the family for nothing? This kind of unscrupulous offspring, if she can't drive out, how can she stand in the family in the future? Old Mrs. Wilson was anxious, slapped the table, and shouted, "Claire, go to the personnel department to go through the resignation procedures immediately." Claire's expression was stunned. Are these people crazy? She opened the contract and took a look. Can they still not believe? At this moment, someone suddenly yelled, "FCK. Embren Group's official statement is released. The 60 million contract is true." Chapter 10. With this roar, everyone was shocked. Afterwards, everyone hurriedly took out their mobile phones and went to the official account of Embren Group. Really? The official service account of Embren Group released a push. The Embren Group's $2 billion hotel project signed a first partner. The group's vice chairman Doris and Doris Hill Wilson's representative Claire signed a 60 million decoration contract. Seeing this title, everyone is crazy. Claire actually talked about the project. And the amount doubled. It has only been more than half an hour. How could it be so easy? This is totally illogical. Harold was shocked and regretted. Before today, Claire was incomparable with himself in terms of status and identity. If he accepted this task yesterday, no matter if he had negotiated it or not, he would not give Claire a chance to show her face. In the end, he turned down because he was afraid of failure. It doesn't matter if he refused it, the key is that Claire actually made it. This is simply slapped in the face. Mrs. Wilson immediately picked up the contract excitedly, read it carefully, and laughed. Excitedly? Okay. Good. 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 Claire, you really made a great contribution. After speaking, she asked, "How did you do it?" Claire said, "Thanks to Ms. Doris, Deputy Doris, she is very optimistic about our Wilson family." In fact, Claire wanted to tell the truth, but after thinking about it carefully, she didn't know who the chairman of the Embren Group was, and no one might believe it. She Ditch the idea. Upon hearing this, Harold felt even more uncomfortable and wanted to die. No wonder Claire can win the contract. It turns out that Doris of the Embrin Group is very optimistic about the Wilson family. Wouldn't anyone go? He really missed a great opportunity. At this time, Charlie spoke. Harold, do you remember our gambling appointment? Harold's expression was as ugly as if he had eaten SHT. How could he not remember the bet, and if he loses, he has to knock 3 heads in public. Claire got the contract and made it clear that he had lost. No way. How can he kowtow to this kind of garbage? Never possible. So he immediately gritted his teeth and said, Charlie, what are you? It's just a rubbish. Who enters our house and eats leftovers every day? You want me to kneel and kowtow? To you? Charlie said calmly. I am indeed a waste, but we swore yesterday, if anyone retreats. Death, 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 grandpa, death to grandma. Charlie deliberately said the 3 words death to grandma very hard. Really? Mrs. Wilson's expression immediately became extremely ugly. She stared at Harold and asked him in a cold voice, what? Do you want me to die? Harold panicked and blurted out. Grandma, you can't be fooled by Charlie. He wants to make your grandson's face and your face lost. Charlie said indifferently at this time. Harold, don't fool grandma here, don't forget that. You have taken a poisonous oath. If you retreat, your oath will be condemned by God. Do you want to curse grandma? Harold was horrified and blurted out. Grandma, you can't make a joke. Old Mrs. Wilson said with a cold face. You know that I believed in Buddhism during my life and swear to heaven, how dare you break your promise? Grandmother. Harold really panicked because he could see that grandma was really angry. The old Mrs. Wilson saw that Harold even violated the vow linked to her life and death. For the sake of his own prestige, she slammed the table and shouted angrily. Are you determined to violate the oath? Grandma Harold froze and immediately made a calculation in his heart. If he abides by the gambling agreement and kowtows to Charlie to admit his mistake, then he has lost face. But if he doesn't abide by the gambling agreement and angers his grandma, then he will lose everything he has in the Wilson family. Thinking of this, even though he was 10,000 times unwilling in his heart, he could only grit his teeth and said, okay, I am willing to do it. Charlie looked at him with a smile and said nothing, just waiting for him to kneel and kowtow. Harold felt that his legs were filled with lead and moved to Charlie with difficulty step by step. He was trembling with hatred and gritted his teeth, but his legs softened and he knelt on the ground. Plop. Those in attendance even took out their phones quietly. Harold lowered his head and said in a trembling voice, I was wrong. After finishing speaking, he leaned down and dropped his head. Charlie said, what did you say? I didn't hear clearly, speak louder. Harold endured the humiliation and kowtow again. I was wrong. Charlie sneered and said, oh, it turns out that you were wrong, where did you go? Wrong? Harold's heart for killing Charlie was all there, but there was one last head that didn't knock. So he just gritted his teeth and said, I shouldn't doubt Claire's ability to be wrong. After speaking, he kowtowed again. Charlie felt very comfortable. He could not bear this Harold for a long time, and this time he seized the opportunity to let him kneel and kowtow. It feels really cool. Claire looked at all this in surprise and felt that her husband was suddenly different from before. Where the specifics are different, she will not be able to tell for a while. But, thinking back to the way that her husband had a bet with Harold yesterday, it seems that he had long expected that he would win. Why does he have such a strong self-confidence? Chapter 11. After Harold knocked 3 heads, tears of humiliation rolled in his eyes. But he didn't dare to make a mistake at the moment. Because he knew that grandma must have strong dissatisfaction with him now. At this time, he can't say anything to make her angry anymore. The old Mrs. Wilson saw that Harold kowtowed his head and admitted his mistake. She felt a little more relaxed. She didn't want her grandson to kowtow to Charlie, but the point was that this poisonous oath was about her own life. She has always believed in Buddhism. If Harold doesn't kowtow to admit his mistake, she is afraid that she will have trouble sleeping and eating for fear of retribution to her. So, she looked at Harold and said lightly, Harold, these 3 heads are for you a little lesson. Don't bet with others casually about things you are not sure about. Even if you bet, don't harm your family. Harold said with a sad face, Grandma, I know, I won't dare anymore. When speaking, his eyes cast a look at Charlie, viciously waiting for him, thinking, you rubbish, forcing me to kneel and kowtow to you and lose face, I will kill you sooner or later. Immediately, Mrs. Wilson opened the mouth and said, it is gratifying to win this contract today. Everyone should hurry to prepare during this period. We must take this opportunity to build a good relationship with the Embrin Group. Charlie reminded her on the side, Grandma, since Claire talked about project cooperation, should the position of company director be given to Claire? Old Mrs. Wilson raised her eyebrows and she couldn't help but think to herself. She did say that whoever gets the contract can be the director. However, when she thinks that Claire has always been disliked by herself and that her rubbish husband has been disgusting, her heart beats again with a different tune. If Claire is held up and she will not be under her control in the future, what should she do? At this moment, she wanted to withdraw her previous promise. After all, when she made the promise, she didn't swear a poisonous oath. Even if she took it back, she will feel at ease. However, she felt that this kind of remark could not be said when Claire just signed the contract, so she said in a convenient way, well, tomorrow night, I will hold a banquet and invite someone with good looks in Oris Hill to the scene. Then, I will face-to-face announce our cooperation with Embrin Group and the appointment of a new director. Upon hearing this, Charlie was relieved with satisfaction. Claire also smiled gently. It seems that the position of the director is finally her own, and she does not need to be squeezed out in the future, and her parents can raise their heads again. Old Mrs. Wilson turned her face, looked at Claire, and said, Claire, there is one more thing. Grandma wants you to help. Claire hurriedly said, Grandma, would you please say? Mrs. Wilson said, I want you to contact the chairman of Embrin and invite him to the banquet tomorrow. After a pause, the Lady Wilson said with a look of expectation, if he can come to our banquet, it will definitely be a brilliant good thing for our Wilson family, and it will also make us famous. Claire thought for a moment and hesitated. But the last time I went, I only met Doris, the vice chairman of Embrand, and never met the chairman himself. Moreover, we just got someone's project and are holding such a banquet. Does it not seem too deliberate? So what? I just want to tell the whole Oris Hill people that we are now tied to the big ship of Embrand, and in the future our Wilson family will develop. The Lady Wilson finished speaking and then said, even if the chairman of Embrand does not want to come, it is okay to invite Doris over. She is the number 2 figure of Embrand Group, and it would be very face-lifting for us to ask her to come over. At this point, Mrs. Wilson was already excited. When she thought that the big clans and big families who had not looked towards the Wilson family in the past might have to rely on the snort of the Wilson family in the future, she couldn't help but burst into enthusiasm. The Wilson family, in her hands, will become even more brilliant. Claire thought for a moment before replying hesitantly. I understand, I will try. It's not a try. Must be invited. Claire nodded lightly and then quietly asked Charlie, what should I do? What if the chairman of Embrand doesn't come? What if Doris is unwilling to come? Charlie laughed and said, try it, don't you have Doris's phone? Maybe the other party agrees as soon as you call? The Wilson family will hold a banquet. In addition to showing the strength of the Wilson family, Claire will also be announced at the banquet. Wife is promoted to director, and it's not bad to be a husband of such a woman. At this time, Claire didn't know that her husband was the chairman of the Embrand Group. She sighed a little tangled and said, the other party is the chairman of Embrand, and it is said that he is the young master of the Eastcliff family. How can he come to the banquet? Charlie smiled and said, I don't think it is necessary. Maybe the other party is always at home with his wife, cooking and washing clothes? Claire was annoyed at him and said, do you think everyone is you? Charlie nodded. Yes, it is very likely that the boss of the Embrand Group is just like me. Claire curled her lips and said softly, cut it. How could it be possible? Chapter 12. Knowing that Charlie was joking, Claire didn't care, stepped aside and dialed Doris's phone. Soon, the call was connected. Doris's pleasant voice came across. Ms. Wilson, hello. Hello, Miss Doris, I have something, I want to ask you for help. Claire said. Embarrassedly. Well, say it. Doris agreed. Claire organized a few words, took a deep breath, and said courageously. I want to ask. If the chairman is free tomorrow night, we want to hold a banquet at home and officially announce the cooperation with Embrand. I hope the chairman can appreciate it and bless us with his presence. Doris was silent for a while, then replied. Ms. Wilson, I can't do this, or else I can help. You asked the chairman's opinion? Claire respectfully said, thank you, then I will trouble you. After hanging up the phone, Claire held the phone in some anxiety, waiting for news from the other party. At this moment, Charlie's cell phone rang suddenly. Charlie was taken aback, and then he scolded himself in his heart. He forgot to mute the phone. It must be Doris who called to ask his opinion. Charlie answered the phone with a calm expression on his face and said yeah. Doris's voice came from the other side. Chairman, the Wilson family is going to hold a banquet tomorrow night. Would you like to go there? Charlie replied. Oh, that's it, it's okay, I'll be fine. Just hang up. After that, Charlie hung up the phone quickly and then mumbled, these sales promotion is really annoying. Claire didn't doubt anything, but shortly afterward, her mobile phone rang again. Doris's voice came over again. Ms. Wilson, our chairman has agreed and will pass by. Then. Really, that's great, thank you for your help, and thanks to the chairman for agreeing. Claire was suddenly very excited. She did not expect that the other party would actually agree to it. Claire hurriedly said to Mrs. Wilson, Grandma, the chairman of the Embrand Group has already agreed. Really, Mrs. Wilson was suddenly excited. After that, she immediately said to the Wilson family present, go and prepare for me. Order the best hotel, order the best meals and drinks, and prepare to welcome the Embrand chairman. In addition, inform all the big companies in the city and invite them to our banquet. Tell them that the Embrand chairman will appreciate their presence. Immediately afterwards, the entire Wilson family became busy. Everyone was extremely excited, constantly contacting various partners in the upper-class figures of Oris Hill City. This is undoubtedly a blockbuster. For a time, the entire Oris Hill City learned of this news. The mysterious new chairman of the Embrand Group will soon appear at the Wilsons' banquet tomorrow. Mrs. Wilson received countless inquiries and she responded with a smile. She is so happy today because as soon as the banquet is over tomorrow, the Wilson family will definitely become Oris Hill's hottest family. Thinking of this, she smiled excitedly and said, okay, come here today and start preparing for tomorrow's banquet. The meeting is over. At the end of the meeting, Mrs. Wilson returned to her office. Harold rolled his eyes and followed closely. Grandma, are you really going to give Claire the position of director? When he walked to a place where there was no one, Harold couldn't help but speak directly. Old Mrs. Wilson frowned slightly and said coldly, I have promised Claire, why can't I give it to her? Harold still insisted. Grandma, you can't let her be the director. The Lady Wilson asked back. Why? She won such a big contract. She is the company's hero and deserves to be entitled. Harold hurriedly said. Claire was able to win the Embrand contract because Wendell from the Jones family was behind her back. I heard that Wendell went to her house yesterday. Embrand Group signed a contract with us today. What a coincidence. You see, 80% of it is because she slept WTH Wendell. The old Mrs. Wilson looked sullen and said. What you said is true. Harold said plausibly, of course it is true. Wendell did go to see Claire last night. You can find out after checking. After that, Harold said to Mrs. Wilson again. Grandma, she is a married woman at first. If the matter between her and Wendell is spread, let people know that our Wilson family got the Embrand Group contract by this means. Where do you put the face of the Wilson family? Where do you put your face? Old Mrs. Wilson frowned. She had already believed most of it in her heart. Wendell liked Claire, she knew it. On her birthday, Wendell also gave a jade amulet worth 3 or 4 million. This also reasonably explained why Claire was able to get a 60 million contract. At this time, Harold said, if you let such a shameless woman be the director, then our reputation will be even worse. At this time, we must use someone else to be the director, and then we will also give credibility to the project. Go to other people, and it's best to choose a man. This can avoid gossip to the greatest extent. Old Mrs. Wilson nodded gently. She believed Harold's words 80%. Looking at it this way, she really have to choose another director to eliminate rumors. If everyone knows that Claire and Wendell got the contract before they get the contract, he can explain to the outside that he is getting the project with the new director, and he is definitely not relying on Claire to sell meat. Moreover, the Lady Wilson has a selfish heart. She really doesn't like Claire. Moreover, she has always favored sons over daughters and does not want to see Claire's status and strength in the Wilson family grow. She must be contained to ensure that the Wilson family's assets will not leak to outsiders. When she thought of this, she had already made up her mind. So, she looked at Harold and said coldly, Harold, in the future, you must listen to me. You can do what I ask you to do. You can never do what I don't let you do. Understand? Harold immediately said faithfully, Grandma, don't worry. What you say in the future will be what Harold will do. I will fight wherever you refer. Yeah. Mrs. Wilson nodded with satisfaction and said, at the banquet tomorrow, I will tell everyone that you are the new director and are fully responsible for the cooperation with the Embren Group, but you must remember that you must be obedient. I can lift you up and I can step on you. Harold was ecstatic in his heart and quickly said, Grandma, don't worry. Harold must be obedient. Chapter 13. When she came out of the Wilson Group, Claire was extremely excited. Tomorrow Grandma will officially announce her new appointment and she can finally be proud of it. Thinking of this, she couldn't help saying to Charlie, Charlie, thank you. If it weren't for your encouragement, I wouldn't dare to take this task. Charlie smiled and said, my wife, you deserve it. After speaking, Charlie said again, by the way, my wife, do you want to celebrate such a big event? Claire nodded. How do you want to celebrate? Charlie smiled and said, it just so happens that the anniversary of our third wedding year is coming soon, let's celebrate together. I'll make preparations, you don't have to worry about it. Claire asked in surprise, are you trying to surprise me? Yes. Charlie nodded and smiled. I just want to prepare a surprise for you. Claire felt a little sweet in her heart and said, then I won't ask you exactly what it is. Charlie said, don't ask, just wait. In order to prepare a special wedding anniversary for his wife, Charlie thought of many plans. The whole is mainly based on compensation. After all, he used to be poor and didn't have the money to buy gifts for his wife, and he didn't even give his wife a formal wedding. Now that he has money, he must compensate her well. After splitting up with his wife, Charlie went to a jewelry shop named Rare Earth in the center of Oris Hill City by himself. Rare Earth is the most famous jewelry store in the region. Gold, platinum, diamonds, and jade, it can be said to have everything. Charlie wanted to buy a gift for his wife first and then go to the best hotel to book a late wedding. After arriving at Rare Earth, the shopping guide saw him wearing a 4-bar Adidas. And they didn't bother to pay attention to him. Charlie looked around for a long time and saw a jade necklace locked in a cabinet. The material of this necklace is the top ice jade, exquisite atmosphere, very in line with Claire's temperament. Charlie looked at the price, 13 million, which was trivial to him. So he called a salesperson and said, hello, please take this necklace out and let me have a look. The other party glanced at Charlie and said, I don't have the key, it is in our manager's hands. After speaking, he used the walkie-talkie to say, Manager Jane, someone wants to see our treasure of the town shop. Soon, a very enchanting woman trot over excitedly. Her name was Jane, the sales manager here. Which distinguished guest wants to see the treasure of the town shop? The salesman pointed to Charlie and said, Manager Jane, this is the gentleman. Huh? When Jane saw Charlie, she was as sick as a fly. How can this kind of filthy rug afford the treasure of the town shop? Thinking of this, she immediately said to the male shopping guide, Liu, are you kidding me? The other party said, no, this gentleman really wants to see the treasure of the town shop. Jane scolded, can this kind of filthy rug afford the treasure of the town shop? Are you blind? If you are blind, just say it and I will rid of you soon. Jane prides herself on being extremely accurate. She can tell at a glance what kind of person and what kind of purchasing power one has. Therefore, she also judged at a glance that Charlie was a pauper and stinky rug. Not to mention the 13 million treasure of the town shop, even the ordinary necklace for 1,300s, he definitely can't afford it. This is not a waste of your feelings? The male shopping guide dared not speak out, so Charlie frowned and asked her, you don't open the door to do business? I want to see this necklace. What's the problem? Jane sneered, we open the door to do business, but don't do business with worthless people. If you can't afford it, don't join the fun. Charlie frowned and said, with which eye do you see that I can't afford it? Ha ha. Jane said disdainfully, this jade is worth tens of millions. What do you buy? I know. Don't you just want me to take a picture of you and send it to your circle of friends? As she said, Jane wrapped her arms around her chest with a high-pitched look, her face full of contempt. Hearing that this jade is worth tens of millions, many people around pointed and said, with contempt, this kind of person is really shameless. He can't afford it but want to have to look at it. What to look at when you can't buy it even in dreams? That's it, without looking at the identity, just that one dress, how can it be worthy of such a super jade? I tell you, there are too many of these fooling around now. Charlie glanced at Jane at the counter and saw that the other party was sneering at him. With a disdainful face, he had already made up his mind to teach this BTCH, who is so low-minded. So Charlie took out his cell phone and dialed Stephen Thompson's number. Come to Rare Earth, give me 13 million in cash. I want to see it in 10 minutes. No problem, master, I will come here. Jane curled her mouth and smiled. I'm still addicted to acting. You have 13 million in cash. I have never seen so much cash in my life. I hope you can open my eyes. You don't. No, more than for millions of cash, you need to make an appointment with the bank. First? Haha, you are so funny. Charlie nodded and said, since you haven't seen so much cash, you will see it soon. The people around were all talking about it. It's not a problem to be poor, the problem is not to swell your face to fill a fat man. Haha, this man doesn't look like a rich man at first sight. He is still talking about 13 million and can give out 300,000. I call him my father. I just want to see what the 13 million cash looks like. Listening to everyone standing on her side, Jane couldn't help but smile. She couldn't see the cash after a while. Let's see how the poor ghost ended up. A few minutes later, at the entrance of Rare Earth, several Rolls-Royce suddenly stopped. Then, from the two front cars, 8 bodyguards in black suits descended. They were holding black leather suitcases in their hands, their muscles were tight, their faces were solemn, and they were all cold and murderous, and even the atmosphere around them was a little serious. This scene immediately shocked the entire Rare Earth. Where does this big man come from? There is such a pomp. Chapter 14. Seeing such a big show, Jane was also shocked, thinking to herself that it was not really the person who was called by the poor ghost. But after another thought, how could it be possible? It is impossible for the poor ghost to know such a powerful character. Stephen Thompson got off the third Rolls-Royce and walked into Rare Earth. Jane quickly got up to greet him. But Stephen Thompson didn't even look at her and went straight to Charlie. Master, I am here and I have brought the money. Stephen Thompson said, waving his hand, and the bodyguard behind walked into Rare Earth and directly put the box full of money on the ground and opened it. It's all densely packed with cash. The people around were so frightened that they gasped for air. DMN it. This smelly filthy rug, oh no. What this person said is actually true. DMN, what kind of big man is he? Many people took out their phones to shoot videos one after another. They didn't want to miss such a shocking scene. However, Stephen Thompson's bodyguards cleared them all out immediately, and they could only photograph Charlie on the back of his head. Charlie pointed to the cash on the floor and asked Jane, have seen so much money? Have you seen it now? Jane was frightened and nodded, I see it, I see it. Charlie said to Stephen Thompson, I want to see the manager of the store. Stephen Thompson nodded, took out his cell phone, and searched for a moment to call. As soon as the call was connected, he cursed directly into the phone. Bad son, I am Stephen Thompson. I am at Rare Earth now. Give you 1 minute and get out of here. Immediately. Otherwise, I will make people burn this Rare Earth. Then let someone break your dog legs. Jane's face turned pale, and the expression in Stephen Thompson's eyes was full of fear. Is this person really so powerful? Own boss, but Oris Hill has a big man with a face, and he can eat well on the road. Who can't give him some face? How can anyone dare to talk to him like this? Before a minute, a middle-aged fat man crawled out of the office behind him. As soon as he saw Stephen Thompson, he rushed forward and said, Mr. Thompson, you come to my shop. Without saying a word in advance, I'd have come to meet you. Stephen Thompson directly slapped him in the face and furiously said, you have a big shelf, and your clerk dares to neglect our young master. Are you tired of life? Stephen Thompson knew that the young master had been wronged a lot in the past 10 years. At this time, seeing a clerk also gave him annoyance. The middle-aged fat man received a slap in the face, and he was a bit wronged at first. But when he heard this, he was shocked and lost his mind. The young master of Stephen Thompson? DMN, Stephen Thompson already exists like a real dragon, isn't his young master like a god in a hanging? His frightened legs kept trembling and turned his head to see Charlie next to Stephen Thompson. Although he looked ordinary, he was the young master of Stephen Thompson's boss family. Thinking of this, the middle-aged fat man was even more apprehensive and said, quickly, Master, I'm so sorry, I apologize to you. Then he turned his head, full of anger, and cursed. Which thing that doesn't have eyesight offends the young master? Stand up for me. The eyes of other shopping guides instantly focused on Jane. Jane quickly wanted to shrink back. But the middle-aged fat man rushed up instantly, grabbed Jane by the collar, slapped her face with a blow, and cursed. You are a BTCH not better than that. Even you dare to offend the master. You are really blind. Blind eyes. Jane was knocked to the ground by a slap, she said crying. Boss, I'm sorry, I'm blind. Please spare me this time. Spare you? The middle-aged fat man grabbed her hair and pulled her face up, hitting her face with a big fist. With one punch and another punch, her face was full of blood. Drafted, do you want to kill me? You want to kill me, I can kill you first. Jane's mouth full of teeth was broken several times, and the bridge of her nose she had just paid for was also broken. Her face was full of blood. She broke away crying and broke away from the middle-aged fat man. She knelt and crawled to Charlie's side, grabbed his leg, and cried, Mr. Wade, I really know that I was wrong. I will never look down on people in the future, please forgive me. Charlie said coldly, do it yourself. When the middle-aged fat man saw that she grabbed Charlie's leg, he was so scared that he ran over and slammed on her head, cursing, you can touch the young master's leg? I'll kill you. After this step, Jane suddenly became unconscious. The middle-aged fat man said to the security guard next to him, put this dog into the waste bin behind the shop. Okay, boss. The security guards did not dare to delay and immediately took Jane, who was full of blood, and let her out. Charlie said to the middle-aged fat man expressionlessly, my wife likes that jade, please. Wrap it up for me. The middle-aged fat man nodded quickly and said, okay, I'll wrap it up for you. Charlie took out the premium card and said, swipe this card. After speaking, he said to Stephen Thompson, you can take the cash back. The middle-aged fat man hurriedly said, Mr. Wade, you like this jade, so I will give it to you as a little gift. Charlie said, I don't need you to do that. The middle-aged fat man said in a consensual way, Mr. Wade, treat it as a small little heart, please accept it. Stephen Thompson said to Charlie, Mr. Wade, since he intends to send you as a plea, please accept it, otherwise he won't even be able to sleep at night. Charlie hesitated for a moment, then nodded gently. Okay, then I thank you. Seeing Charlie accepted the jade necklace, the fat man breathed a sigh of relief. If Charlie didn't accept this necklace, he was really afraid that Stephen Thompson would not let him go. With his strength, hooking his fingers could also make him wiped out. At this time, Stephen Thompson asked Charlie, "Mr. Wade, do you want me to send you off?" "No." Charlie waved his hand and said, "Where's the back door? I'll go by myself." The onlookers really opened their eyes today. Several Rolls-Royces brought $13 million in cash just to buy a piece of jade. As a result, the boss of Rare Earth did not even dare to collect money. What is the origin of that very humble young man? Many people uploaded this video to the internet and it became popular online. Netizens have called this mysterious person super rich second generation, overbearing president, God-level rich man, and even set off a search for God-level rich man activity, and countless people actively participated. But fortunately, when these people took the video, the man and his people were cleared out of the store surrounded by bodyguards, so the identity in their video was very vague and could not be used as a reference for finding someone. Chapter 15. After leaving Rare Earth, Charlie did not go home immediately. He wanted to give his wife a full set of surprises on the day of wedding anniversary. This surprise is not just a jade necklace, he also wants to